don't have little weeny black ants that couldn't hurt anything. We have what are colloquially known as red ants or fire ants. And they're anywhere from a pinky fingernail to a thumb fingernail big. They're pretty big. And they're red, and they live in giant colonies. And when they bite you, they seize a large chunk of your flesh, and they have an acid in their saliva, which stings. So they don't actually, they're not venomous, they're not poisonous, but their bite hurts a lot.
It stinks.
It feels like fire.
What is that?
Yeah, it feels like fire when you get bit by a fire ant.
That's what they call it. What animal is that? That's a big squirrel. It's a
Gray
squirrel.
squirrel.
That's right.
That hatch out to the point where that lamp would be on, but not a single bit of light would be shining on us because of the cloud of bugs flying around it. And that was my summer camp. And so when you lit up the Coleman lantern, it would attract bugs from like 100 acres all around. They would all come. Right? Turn off the lantern! Oh my God! But we were playing hearts, right?
Yeah.
Right, we were playing hearts, so we needed a lantern, right? So we had our lantern, it was hanging on a hook off to the side of our picnic table where we were playing hearts. And we wanted to play hearts so bad, we were willing to be dive bombed by bugs that you could feel hit you in the head. But you know what? We got used to it. You know, a June bug, horse flies, gigantic spiders, you know, no problem. None of them any bigger than about 3 inches. So we're good, right? So we're all sitting there playing hearts, and this bug flies into the light, and it's 6 inches from nose to tail. It's like this big, and it has
We're not even kidding.
huge wings, like a paperback novel, and it flutters in. It's not a very good flutter. Flop, 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 flop. It's not a moth because it has a gigantic body like a praying mantis, and it has a giant set of pinchers on the front, as long as my fingers, and it flaps into the light, and like we're all horrified because this is the horrifying story of the Dobsonfly, and so no one can move. Like the hearts game is over, right? But like you're afraid if you move, it's gonna fly towards you. So we're just sitting there, and it flies flap, 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 right into the middle of our picnic table.
Oh my God!
And there's 4 of me, 4 of my friends, we're all sitting there, and it turns right and flies right onto Scott's face. Bam! And its wings are going, flop, flop. And the blood drains out of Scott's face like a cartoon. White as a sheet. Over he goes backwards, fainting. We scream because it's the horrifying Dobsonfly has just killed Scott. Right? Ah! So Scott goes over backwards, hits his head, and we're scouts, so we stop screaming and try to react. Right? Scott has hit his head. Does he have a concussion? Is everyone going to be okay? A little bit of screaming. But the Dobsonfly goes aerial again. Comes up into the air, and like we're going around to get to Scott, and we're like all given that thing, that Mothra space, because it's already killed one kid. Who knows what's next, right? So it lands on the table, and it's sitting there just like it was on Scott's face. It's sitting there. And they're not moth wings. They're like humongous dragonfly wings. They're like got veins in them, and it's pretty fun. So I see them there on the table, and you know, courage is a scout value. You know, I was afraid, but sometimes you just gotta like deal with it. So I got my scout handbook, and I slammed it down on that bug. There were a few parts sticking out, you know, but I drilled it. that's that, right? I'm the hero of the day. Like, oh my God, Greg killed it, right? So we get Scott and we get him in a chair and we're checking him to see if his eyes are crooked or he knows what day it is because he hit his head on a rock after the thing landed on his face. And everyone's telling the story because other scouts come running over and like, oh my God. And then all of a sudden this kid screams and the conversation stops and everyone turns towards the picnic table and my scout book is walking down the table. We're all like, no way!
It's still alive!
So we put a lantern on top of the scout book. There were still pieces moving, you know.
Oh, brother.
And we the next morning, it was actually dead, and we put it in a cigar box. It was the only thing that would fit in the cigar box. And we took it to the nature center and asked the guy what it was, and he said, an alien, something from outer space. So we took it to the Oklahoma University to an entomologist who identified it as an extremely large Dobsonfly, which is the one-night version of the Hegromite grub that lives in streams, and it doesn't even have a mouth. It doesn't even eat. It just lives one night and looks for other Dobsonflies and breeds and lays its eggs in a stream. But we didn't know that. It was a horrifying. That's the story, by the way, of the horrifying.
But why did he
Dobsonfly.
bleed?